So good morning, I'm Adam Cade from Stamford Community Orchard Group on this beautiful sunny morning, and I'm in the orchard. So this is our orchard. We've got this beautiful orchard tree here, this Spartan, lovely bright red fruits. On the sunny side of the tree, obviously they're going to be a lot brighter and redder. Anyway, what I'm going to show you now, if I can get my knife out, is what I love doing and showing people with apples is cutting them the wrong way. And most people cut an apple like that, but if you cut them the wrong way, what you get is the story of the apple. Because just here you've got this beautiful star shape, and the apple at this end is the remains of the flower, and the flower has 5 petals, and those 5 petals attract the bees. The bees come to the flower, they pollinate the flower, because all apple trees need to be pollinated to produce fruit, and then the fruit grows, and you can see the remains. This one's got a bit of a pest here, but you can see the remains backwards, and if they come off easily, we know they're ripe. And the most important thing to do is to cut the apple like I just showed you, and to see if the pips are nice and brown and dark, and then you know they're ripe. So we pick them, collect them all together, put them in boxes and store them, but we also crush them in a mill and make juice from them and pasteurize the juice, and we also use that juice to make cider. But the cider apple trees, we actually don't pick the fruit. We get a big stick and we beat the tree with a big sheet under the tree. All the apples fall off, and then we wrap the sheet up, collect all the apples and put them in a mill, make juice and make cider, and it's delicious. Okay, now we're in the area where we grow new apple trees, and there are 2 ways of growing them. We can either grow them by using those brown pips, seeds inside the apple, and plant them in a pot in soil, and we get seedlings. After about 6 months, we get these. And these were grown by Ketton Primary School, children in Ketton Primary School. And you can see here a lovely stick growth of the young apple tree, and lovely roots, so it's not going to stay in this pot for much longer because it's already squeezing out of the pot. But you can see here, each of those pips produce a whole range of apples, some that are very weak and small, some that are very tall and healthy, some with diseased leaves, some without, some with yellow leaves, yellowish leaves, some with dark green leaves, and that huge variation that you get is really interesting. And over the last 2,000 years, people have been selecting those seedlings that produce the most interesting growth and, of course, the tastiest apples. And when they find one apple that they really like and want to keep growing, if they sow the pip from that apple tree, it will produce yet again a range of different apple trees, which is no good because they want to grow the same one generation after generation. So what they do is what's called grafting, and they take one apple tree, which is here, and they cut it, and then cut a twig. Here's a twig, it went from here down to here, off another apple tree that they want to grow generation after generation, and they cut it so that they join the 2 bits together, and you can see the little join line just here. And so this bit here will keep growing. Right, we're now in another part of the orchard, and we've got a very, very interesting tree here. It's called Dr. Harvey, and it comes from Norfolk. It was discovered in Norfolk over 300 years ago. This is the apple. I'm going to take it off. It's not quite right because that was a bit of a pull to get it off. But anyway, this apple has been grown on a tree that was grafted. So probably down the bottom of the tree here, there was a graft. You can probably just about see it there, I think. There's the line of probably the graft line. And so this has grown into a huge new tree. This tree is about 60 or 70 years old. And this is called Dr. Harvey. And it's been grown by grafting for over 300 years. And I think that's fantastic. The tree next door, though, is really interesting as well. It looks very similar. That's why they've been grown together. So that's Dr. Harvey, but this is called Schoolmaster. And this was found about 100 years ago in the grounds of Stamford School, actually in the headmaster's garden. So it was named Schoolmaster by a nurseryman called Mr. Brown from Stamford. Now this is a very local variety, and what our community orchard group is interested in is all these very old local varieties like Dr. Harvey from Norfolk or Schoolmaster from Stamford. So we're trying to preserve these old varieties because they taste very different and they're delicious. So we're now indoors, and where we make the juice and the cider, and we dry apples and pears as well in a dryer to preserve them over the winter, because if you keep apples, they will keep for perhaps up to 6 months, but not longer. But we have apple juice that's over 2 years old, and we have cider that's over 3 years old. Dried apples that are probably 5 years old and still beautiful to eat. Anyway, what we use to make the juice is just any fruit that we can find, and we crush it up in something like a mill and a press that you can see over there, and then we put the juice into demijohns like this, and this is to make cider. And in this case, in fact, this is perry made from pear juice, and you can see the fermentation, the gas bubbles coming off, producing this beautiful sound. And we use all different sorts of apples to make the cider. We use crab apples like this. We use big apples, small apples. They all go in the mix. We crush the apples in the mill, which is here. We put them in a press like this and wind the press down. The juice comes out. We store it in these containers, and if we're going to make cider, we leave it to ferment, probably for 6 months. If we're going to make juice, we pasteurize it, and we heat it to about 70 degrees centigrade for half an hour, and then put it into bottles, which we put in our cellar.